Welcome to Kia's first ever all-electric saloon. It's called the EV4 Fastback, and I reckon that it might just be good enough to steal sales away from the Tesla Model 3. And if you want to find out why, then keep watching this video. In this Parker's Cars review, I'm going to check out the EV4's range and performance, interior and practicality, as well as standard equipment levels and how the warranty stacks up against rivals. And if you want to know more about the EV4, don't forget that you can head on over to the parkers.co.uk website for a detailed written review on this very model. And actually, that's a good point, because this is just one of the two available body styles that you'll be able to buy the EV4 in. This is the 4-door fastback variant, but there's also going to be a 5-door hatchback, which will be the bigger seller. They're essentially the same car underneath, but there are a few key differences. For example, the hatchback is available with the cheapest air trim level and the smaller 58.3 kWh battery, whereas the Fastback only comes with the larger 81.4 kWh battery and GT Line and GT Line S trim levels. That means the hatchback starts at just under £35,000, while the Fastback begins pricing at just under £41,000. You'll also spot the different rear bodywork, and we'll get on to what that means for practicality later in the video. To drive, however, you're not going to feel a whole lot of difference, and that's because both cars are based on the same eGMP electric car platform, which also underpins the Kia EV3, which is very, very similar to this car, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Genesis GV60, all of which are under the Hyundai Motor Company umbrella. Today we've got an EV4 Fastback in GT Line trim and shale grey paint. It's of course got the 81.4 kWh battery, and that means a claimed 380 miles of range from a single charge. That's better than the claimed 323 mile range of the standard Tesla Model 3 and 344 mile range of the standard Polestar 2. In terms of real world range, we've been driving this car around for about an hour and a half now. There hasn't been too much high speed stuff, which will obviously lower the total range and increase the amount of electricity we're using per mile, but it looks like it's going to come in just under the claimed figure, which is about what you'd expect. Under the skin of the EV4 Fastback, and the hatch for that matter too, is a single electric motor that powers the front axle. It develops 204 horsepower and 283 newton meters of torque, which means 0 to 62 miles an hour in 7.9 seconds and a top speed of 105 miles an hour. Now obviously, that's a lot less power than a Tesla Model 3 and a Polestar 2, but is it any less power than you really need in a car like this? I don't think it is. It still feels punchy enough. I haven't felt like we've been lacking power in the time I've been driving it. And it's a really nice, smooth, responsive, predictable throttle response, which is what you want from a family EV. And if you really do want that extra speed, then you can wait for the dual motor or even the GT version, which is going to be along at some point in the future. And that will be plenty fast enough. What's more, this EV4 Fastback is super slippery, even more so than the hatchback version, and that's really, really good for the overall range. It's even got active air flaps in the front bumper, which can open or close depending on whether the car requires aerodynamic efficiency, and therefore how streamlined it is, or cooling on a hot day like today. Just like a Ferrari F80 in that respect. And while ride and handling levels aren't quite worthy of the prancing horse, the EV4 definitely takes a step on from the EV3 in that it feels more grown up and polished, but still good fun. The ride in particular is excellent, while road and wind noise are nicely isolated from the cabin. Switch it into sport mode, however, and the EV4 feels super keen. There's a noticeable change in throttle response, and while outright grip levels aren't exceptional, it's surprisingly good fun to chuck around on a winding road. The feel through the brake pedal in particular is a welcome surprise in a family EV like this one. Another thing that stands out in here versus the Kia EV3 is the driving position. You can sit 40 millimeters lower, which, okay, it won't be for everyone because, let's face it, half the reason that SUVs became so popular was because of that higher, more commanding driving position. But if you like to feel more involved and have a sportier sort of stance, then this might work for you. Believe it or not, the EV4 was tested extensively on the Nürburgring circuit in Germany, so the idea that you might want to sit lower and feel more involved isn't completely at odds with the rest of the car. No word, however, on how close it got to the AMG One's production car lap record. The EV4 has also got a new AI voice assistant powered by ChatGPT, and apparently it can recommend things like restaurants to you, or music, or even actually tell a joke. So that's what I'm going to get it to do now. If I press the button on the steering wheel here, tell me a joke.
I made a pencil with 2 erasers. It was pointless.
And there's your joke. Before we get to the cabin section of this review, a quick word on charging in the EV4. Should you find yourself next to a rapid charger, the EV4's maximum charging speed is 135 kilowatts, which is slower than a Tesla Model 3 and a Polestar 2, but it still means that you'll be able to get from 10 to 80% charge in about 31 minutes with the longer range battery. Okay, so charging speeds fall behind premium rivals, but what about the interior and equipment levels? Well, as mentioned earlier, the EV4 Fastback only comes in GT Line and GT Line S trim levels, but even the hatchback in base Air spec is well equipped with heated front seats and steering wheel, wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, a vast suite of safety aids, and a 3-screen layout in the cabin. However, if you get the Fastback version like this, then you get even more standard equipment. This car comes with an electronically adjustable driver's seat, wireless smartphone charging, customizable ambient lighting, and digital key functionality, which means that you can get into the car using your phone or even your smartwatch. Overall, the quality in the EV4 is excellent. It feels very well put together, and the two-tone artificial leather is a great touch in this GT line model. There's a few cheaper surfaces, but they're mainly out of sight. Also, storage is plentiful, with lots of handy trays around the central armrest area that are perfect for just dumping a set of keys or headphones in, for example. Couple of things to note here. The infotainment system is very good. We've got plenty of screens. We've got 3, in fact. The central infotainment screen is responsive. It's got good graphics, lots of functionality, all top stuff. But the middle screen, which displays and allows you to control different climate settings, actually gets blocked when I've got my hands on the steering wheel, so I can't really see what's going on there. Thankfully, Kia has fitted physical temperature controls to the EV4, so the passenger and the driver can adjust the temperature on their side using physical buttons, which is great. But it does beg the question, what's that middle screen doing? Seems a little bit of a waste. Something else I wanted to mention are a couple of new interior modes. So we've got the relaxation mode and the theatre mode. Theatre mode uses the onboard streaming services, so you've got Disney+, YouTube, Netflix, and it allows you to turn the cabin into, a theatre. So it does lots of different things with the ambient lightings, the screen, makes it feel like you're watching a movie. There's also the relaxation mode, which again switches off all the screens and turns it into the perfect sleeping environment. And if you get the relaxation seats on the GT Line S model, they fold completely flat so you can have a nice sleep, but obviously when the car is parked and turned off. But what if you've got passengers in the back? How practical is the EV4? Well, at this point, it's important to note that despite the EV4 being significantly longer than the EV3, its wheelbase, the gap between the front and rear wheels, is the same. That means rear seat legroom is also the same, but it's definitely no bad thing because the legroom in here is absolutely excellent. I've got tons and tons of room and I can just about get my feet underneath the driver's seat in front of me, so that's very good. What is a bit tighter though is the headroom. Now, if I sit up straight, you can see that I can't quite put my head back onto the headrest without it
scraping against the ceiling, and I can do that in the EV4 hatchback, so that's where that sloping roof slightly compromises things. A couple of other bits to mention back here. We've got some very nice USB-C charging points on each of the front seats, so if you've got two kids back here, they can both charge their devices. We've got some pockets here, we've got another pocket down there. We've got cup holders in the central armrest, and one of my favourite bits about electric cars, there's no central tunnel, so there's extra footroom there, and you've also got a 3-pin charging socket, so you could power lots of regular devices, which you wouldn't be able to do in an ICE car.
As for boot space, the EV4 hatchback gets 435 litres with the rear seats in place, while the Fastback gets 490 litres. However, that's not the full story.
You see, because of the Fastback's narrow boot opening, it means that arguably it's less practical than the hatchback, because you can't make as good a use of the space, because getting bulky items in is pretty difficult. But then that's the case for all saloon versus hatchbacks. That said, this Fastback does have a smaller load capacity than the Tesla Model 3.
It's also worth mentioning that the Fastback version gets no rear wiper, while both the Fastback and the hatchback are the only EVs in Kia's current lineup that do not get additional storage space in the front boot or frunk because, well, there isn't one.
Before we get to the verdict section, here's a couple of extra bits that you really need to know about the Kia EV4. And first off, the warranty. Like all Kias, it gets a 100,000 miles, 7-year warranty, which is better than Tesla, better than Polestar, better than pretty much anybody else out there. It is fantastic, and you also get a separate, longer battery warranty as standard with this car too. And the second thing I've got to tell you about is the safety rating. Now, at the time of filming, the EV4 hasn't been tested by Euro NCAP, but the EV3, which of course is very similar to, has. It got a 5-star safety rating, so when they do test this car, we're pretty confident that it'll have exactly the same 5-star.
The EV4 Fastback faces very stiff competition from rivals such as the Tesla Model 3, and in some areas, such as performance and charging speed, it does struggle. However, range, outright space, standard equipment, warranty, and the overall drive all score highly and mean that the Fastback is a viable option if you want a usable electric saloon car. That said, it's hard to argue that the cheaper hatchback is the stronger proposition of the two. It beats its main rivals in several key areas and still delivers all the polish of the Fastback without the controversial rear-end styling. I would strongly recommend it if you're looking for an EV family hatchback. Another final reminder that if you want to know more about the EV4 or fancy browsing reviews of our other favourite family cars, be sure to head over to the parkers.co.uk website, where we've got thousands of new and used car reviews just a click away.